Okay, so right. So again, discuss about generation of computers first. So again, the hardware with the development of hardware, computer hardware, it was identified several generations with significant developments of this hardware. First generation was called in mid 1940s up to 1956. So in this generation, a technology called vacuum tube was used to process data. Actually, these development were considered in how the technology was used to process data. So this one is a vacuum tube. You can see the image. And using this vacuum tube, the computer can take a small decision, very small decision. So normally in logic, in digital computing, there are three basic decisions. So one is where we have inputs. If we consider two inputs, there are only three main decisions that we take in digital computing. One is AND decision. The other one is OR decision. These are the main two. And there is another one called NOT. So these are the basic decisions. So normally if it is AND decision, if we consider A, B, and the output, so these two inputs can be considered. If this one is yes, this one also can be yes. If this is yes, this is no. This is no, this is yes, and both of the inputs are no. So those are the inputs that we can give using two inputs. So if it is AND, if you're going to consider AND operation, this will give yes if and only if all the inputs are yes. So these things are no. So this is one decision. So the logic between here, logic in this decision is if all the inputs are yes, the output will be yes. So that decision can be taken from a hardware device. So these vacuum tubes are arranged together to perform this decision depending on inputs. Again, OR means this is AND. If it is OR, then the output will be yes, 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 and no. So the logic in OR gate is if any output is yes, sorry, if any input is yes, the output will be yes. That's the logic. So that logic also can be performed using an arrangement of these vacuum tubes. So these vacuum tubes will be arranged in order. Set of vacuum tubes will be arranged in order, and using this, it may possible to take an AND decision. Again, another similar arrangement of these vacuum tubes, they could take the OR decision. So using those, they were able to perform calculations, basic calculations. For example, if we need, if you want to add 5 plus 8, so these will be converted to digital signals. So 5 can be written as 101 plus 8 is 1000. So by using this by performing this AND OR NOT and plus these commands using these vacuum tubes, they were able to calculate these values. And this is 13, like that. So the basic hardware device which is developed to perform calculations or to process data is this vacuum tube. So in the first generation of computers, these vacuum tubes are arranged together as a processing unit to perform calculations. So these computers were very large, right? You can see computers were as big as room in size. It was very huge. Cost was very high, and the power consumption is very high, right? So if you need to perform a simple calculation, it may take a day, right? Again, if you want to change the operation, then it may take another 3 to 2 days to rearrange the vacuum tubes. So like that, earlier computers were very complex and very huge. However, they were able to perform calculations using hardware. මරයාට hardware පාවිච්චි කරලා මේ calculations කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. Right. After that, the transistor was invented, and transistor is a simple version, a very small version of vacuum tube. And using those transistors, the earlier scientists, they were able to develop computers more speed than the previous one and more smaller than the previous one, which consume less power. You can see what are the characteristics, right? So transistor is then significant development of the processing unit. After that, third generation. So by combining all these transistors together, by combining these transistors like this, they were able to develop another new device, which is called integrated circuit, or called as IC. So this is a small one, but it can perform a task of thousands of transistors. So then you can see here, they were able to develop very small, but which can work in a significant speed, personal use computers using this IC, integrated circuits. You can see ICs are embedded in the motherboard. So again, it is a very significant development. Vast development. So that is then that era was called as third generation. Fourth generation, you can see this is called as microprocessor. This is very amazing invention. So this is a combination of transistors again, but thousands of transistors were arranged together, and this can perform in higher speed than the previous developments. So this is called as microprocessor, and nowadays in present computers also we are using the same microprocessor. Then you can see computers were very smart, and again their speed were very high, processing speed was very high, and they were small, and we can they could bought these computers in low cost, right? Power consumption is very less. So all the advantages were there. So then in fourth generation, the main development of the processing unit is microprocessor. Then again, we're going to discuss about a fifth generation. In fifth generation, you can see the processing unit is same. It is also the microprocessor. So there is no significant development actually in between fourth generation and fifth generation. So but here the thing is, the computer inventors, they combine several CPUs together. And then develop one CPU. So these are called as cores. Core i3, Core i7, like that. So multi-core. So then the only development they could do with the microprocessor is this combining few of them and make one, increasing the number of cores. That is the development in fifth generation. So in fifth generation, there was some additional concept were combined with computers. Those are artificial intelligence. That is because these processors can process in higher speed. So then computers can take very advanced, complex decision in a very small, very little time period, right? Small piece of time. So then after fifth generation, there is no such a significant development in microprocessor. So we are still developing the same microprocessor, which is developed in the fifth generation. So, but when you're going to buy a laptop or a computer, normally the sellers, they may say these are 11th generation computer, 10th generation computer, like that. So 11th gen, 10th gen. So those are also referred with the development of hardware, but not with the processor. In computer science, we're going to discuss about only 5 generations. Because after the 5th generation, there is no significant development of the processor. It has reached the maximum development of the processor. මේනකොට computer processor කියන එක එයාගේ එන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම development එක ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඉන් එහා develop කරගන්න තාම බෑ. processor එකට අමතරව එකක් develop කරලා නැහැ. මේකම දියුණු කරනවා ආරෙන්. Right. Okay. So that is about some history about computers. You can see the basic diagram of hardware, right? There are 5 main components. The main component is CPU, the processing unit, then primary memory, that's the main memory of the computer, storage devices, input devices, and output devices. So these are the main 5 components, hardware components of the computer. So now we can see in this diagram, this is how data is going to flow throughout the hardware devices, through the hardware devices. See, we have to input data always, that input data. And after that, this data will be saved in the main memory. So this is the main storage of a computer. And again, some data can be stored permanently in storage devices. Storage devices. So those also initially must save in the primary memory. So the data which are stored in the secondary storage, those also has to be stored in the secondary memory. Oh, sorry, the primary memory before processing. Right, you can see all the data initially comes here. And after that, this data will be sent for processing to the central processing unit through the control unit. So arithmetic logic unit is the main component which process data, which it's the calculator actually. So then the data which are generated from input devices or which are from storage devices, they will initially save in the primary memory, and from that they will send to the CPU, central processing unit. After that, these data will be processed from here, and the processed data also again will be sent to the primary memory. That is what you must understand here. Then from there, they will be sent to output devices or again to storage devices. If the output or the processed data has to be presented in the monitor or any kind of output device like a speaker or a printer, so they will send to the output devices. Or if you're going to save them in the computer, then they will send to the secondary storage. Okay. Right. Do you have any questions regarding this? But you must understand here how data flow through these hardware components and how these hardware components are arranged together. Did you understand? Right, children. Okay, then. So we're going to discuss one by one. This is a brief description, and again, we're going to discuss about all these 5 components in detail. So this is just a summary. Central processing unit. So there are 3 main components in central processing unit. So those are arithmetic and logic unit, control unit, and memory unit. The CPU also has a memory unit. So all the inputs. So here you must understand this input unit is not the actual input devices. This is primary memory, or which we call RAM, random access memory. This is from primary memory, not input devices. Because this is central processing unit. Here in the diagram also you can see this is the central processing unit. The input unit for this central processing unit is the primary storage, that is main memory. There's a main memory in the computer. So that main memory is the input device for this central processing unit, CPU. All the other data will be sent or generated from input devices and storage devices. However, they will initially store in the primary memory, then only they can be communicated into or transmit into this CPU, central processing unit. So here, then you must understand this is central processing unit, and input means keyboard, mouse, those things. But however, they will be sent to this central processing unit through the main memory. So you must keep that in mind. Right. Again, output, monitor, printer. However, the process data also will be output through the main memory. Initially, they will be sent to the main memory, and from there, they will be sent to the output devices. Got it? Right. So, control unit is the main unit which controls all the actions in this central processing unit that will accept data from the main memory, and they will send to the ALU or arithmetic logic unit. They will be processed. After that, again through the control unit, they will be sent to the main memory. That's the process. So this memory unit is to keep data which are necessary while processing. For example, if you're going to add 7, 5, 4, 8. If you're going to add this one, 4 plus 8 is 12, right? So we're going to put 2 here, and the remaining 1 will be written here. So this is the additional memory. So those things will be kept here. Again, 5 plus 7, that's 12. So again, 2, another 1 is there. So then that also has to be saved somewhere. So like that, to keep those temporary data while processing, the memory unit is used. Right? So in the CPU also, inside the CPU also, there is a memory unit, which is called registers. These are called as registers. We can discuss that. Right. If you just consider about control unit, control all the activities. It controls all the activities or operations which are performed inside the computer system. That is why it is called as control unit. It's the main component which controls the computer. It receives instructions of information directly from the main memory. This is the device which is going to fetch data from the main memory. When the control unit receives an instruction set, it converts the instruction set to control signal. Then these signals are sent to the central processor for further processing. So what happens here, what describes here, in the computer, so we have main memory. Actually, main memory, this is called RAM, right? You know, when this refers as RAM, I think you already know. And the central processing unit is here. This is central processing unit. And it has control unit. and arithmetic and logic unit. This is arithmetic and logic unit. And again, further it has the memory unit, registers. So now, as a first step, when the computer is going to process data, the data will be initially in main memory. Main memory data. So the control unit will fetch this data from the main memory. And second task which is performed by this control unit is this will convert this data into processing signals. That is the second step. This will convert this data. After that, they will be sent to the ALU for processing. That is that we call execute. We can execute. After that, the data which is processed again will be sent to the memory for temporary storage. That also done by this control unit. Fourth step, store. Fetch, we call this decode, execute, and store. That is the process. So, however, this control unit is the main component which control all these data transmission and communication. What ALU, arithmetic logic unit, do is it's the calculator. It just execute these commands. That's all. Right, children? So when I'm explaining, if you have any questions, you can raise, right? If you couldn't understand any, please ask questions. Right, children. So that is the task of control unit. So you must be able to explain what is the main task of the control unit. Then arithmetic and logic unit. The conventional digital electronic circuit that can perform arithmetic operations on integer binary numbers. So this can perform arithmetic operations like adding, subtracting, comparing, and those other operations. So it performs arithmetic and logic operations. So what are logic operations? Those are the and, not, and or. Arithmetic operations this perform is adding. So there are some other arithmetic operations like, so if we consider arithmetic operations, so those are the known ones. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So this ALU can only perform this addition. So this subtraction also will be performed using addition. Subtraction, multiplication, and division. All these other operations are performed based on addition. So then this control unit, it can add some digital values and these values or these values. So those are main operations that CPU can perform or the arithmetic and logic unit can perform. Right. So however, what you must understand here, arithmetic logic unit is the main calculator or the brain of the central processing unit. It's a high-speed calculator. It can perform mathematical and mathematical and logical operations. Right. So then, if we consider about storage units, again the other part is memory unit. We discussed that already. So storage unit can be divided into two main categories. One is primary storage. The other one is secondary storage. So primary storage is the device which is used as the primary storage is RAM, random access memory. So that is again called as the main memory of the computer. So it temporarily store all the instruction and data before sending them to the central processing unit, CPU. The CPU only communicate with RAM for data processing. So in the computer, we have CPU, and we have RAM and hard disk also, right? So this hard disk is called as a secondary memory because that is used to store data, right? And again, we have input-output devices. So all the data which gonna generate from input devices, initially we discussed this, will be sent to RAM, and data which are stored in this hard disk, secondary storage, that is also be sent to RAM before processing. So from the RAM, they will be sent to the CPU. The main reason to this is CPU is a very high speed device, and hardware and input devices, those are very slow devices. So RAM again is a very high speed read and write memory, which can perform reading and writing in a higher speed. So that is why CPU just communicate only with RAM. Otherwise, this will be stay in idle process if this can't perform faster. For example, if I'm going to ask you to write something and I'm going to read. So I'm reading, you are going to write what I'm reading. So if I read slowly, even if you can write very faster, you have to stay idle. ඔයාලට දැන් මම හිමින් කියවුවොත් ඔයාලට නිකන් ඉන්න වෙනවා නේද? ඔයාලට වේගෙන් ලියන්න පුළුවන් වුණත් මම කියවන වේගය අඩු නම් ඔයාලට නිකන් කාලය අපතේ යවන්න වෙනවා. That wastes the time. So that is why the CPU only communicates with RAM. So RAM is a very speed memory, high speed memory. Then CPU can read and write data in a higher speed in the RAM. So these communications will be done by the operating system with input and output, so input hardware and this hard disk. මේගොල්ලෝ හිමීට මේවා මෙතනට load කරගන්නවා. CPU එකට අටක් ගාලා මෙතනින් අරගෙන මේවට ටික කරගෙන යනවා. So that is how the internal communication inside the computer works. So then this primary memory is very important because that is the main memory which hold or store data which are to be processed in the computer. That is why it is called main memory actually. Secondary memory. So secondary memory is all the storage devices where we can save data, store the data and programs on a long-term basis in secondary memory. The hard disk is the main secondary memory device component. So it's slow and cheap memory. So the memory is cheap. But RAM, it's a high-speed memory, but again the cost is also high. So now the hard disk have 500 gigabytes, 1 TB, 2 TB, 16 TB hard disk also there, right? So even hard disk is more has more capacity than memory. The reason which is the hard disk is not used with the CPU. You already know that. The reason is it's a slow device, right? Even it has the high capacity, that will not use to communicate with the CPU. RAM, initially RAM, the main memory, the highest capacity of RAM will be 4 GB, 8 GB in our normal daily use laptops, computers. In high performing computers, that can be 64, 128 like that. But however, in general purpose computers, we use 8 GB or 4 GB RAM. But when we consider hard disk, we use 1 terabyte hard disk, 2 terabyte hard disk like that. The capacity of the hard disk is very high while when comparing to the main memory. But the RAM is the main memory of the computer because the communication speed, read and write speed, right?
Sorry, SD.
Yes.
So SD is so secondary.
Sorry, but I didn't get you.
So SSD.
Yeah, SSD. Yes. That is also a secondary device. We're going to discuss them in detail, right? Okay. So all these are considered as secondary storage devices. Only the technology is different when we compare with this normal SATA hard disk, IDE hard disk. However, the hard disk is whatever the technology, the hard disk is a secondary storage device. Right, children. So input devices. So input devices receive or accept data or instructions from the user who exists in the outside world. So input devices are the main interaction devices. Main devices which allow the users to interact with the computer. It accepts outside data and convert them into digital format and send to the computer. These devices convert the data or instructions into the machine readable format. That is called digital signals, digital format. The input device perform like the connection between the outside world and the computer, right? So that's a connection actually that connects the user with the computer. Keyboard is the main hardware device in the input category. Keyboard is the main hardware component in the input category. Again, to get the output, the devices which are called as output devices are used, like monitors, printers, speakers, those things. Right? So those are input and outputs of the computer. Again, output devices, if we consider them especially, these devices receive or accept the data from the computer in binary format. Input devices, they accept data from users. Output devices accept data from computer and present them to the user. Convert the binary code into human readable form. So human readable form is, even we're gonna just look into our monitor or your smartphone screen. That digital signals or machine readable signals now have been converted to human readable format. So when you're gonna see these letters actually, right? So you can see just letters, right? But really, that is just a form of light, which is created using a digital signal, right? Here you can see the word clock in blue color letters, but actually there are no such thing. This is just a form of light. Then light like a formula. Light again. So what has happened here actually, the screen will be divided into very small dots. And the computer will color these dots according to the digital signal. Okay, right. So what the computer do? It will color these dots according to the digital signal. So we can see the word clock here, depending on these color dots. So actually this is a digital signal here. There are no letters, there are no colors, only binary data. So what output device do is, it will create a human readable image or a sound depending on this digital signal. Okay, is it clear, everyone? Right, children. Now clock. This is also a very important component in the computer, clock. So all the data transmission inside the computer will be performed in a clock pulse, right? So normally the speed of this clock pulse is billionth time of a second, right? The time period of this clock pulse is normally in US computers, it's 1 from 5 billions of a second, right? So a second of time will be divided into 5 billions. I don't know how many zeros are there. Okay. So this is the time interval it takes for a clock pulse. Normally in our normal situation, normal environment, in our clock, the smallest time period is second, right? That is the smallest time period we're going to consider in our day-to-day life. It's a second. So in computer, one over 5 billion. That much small, one single unit of the time calculation, right? So depending on this value, the speed of the computer will be decided. Actually, what happens here in this clock, it will generate a clock pulse, right? It will generate a clock pulse like this. So when we just switch on the computer, this clock will start. What it does, it generates just a pulse. What is signal? It's a pulse. So the time interval between two pulses is, as I explained earlier, 1 over 5 billion of seconds. Now when the computer is going to process data, the digital signals will be created, and these digital signals change their state in this clock pulse. Like this. See. So here 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, like that. So the speed of transmitting these digital values is depend on this, the duration between two clock pulses. The clock එක අනුව තමයි මේ data transmit වෙන්නේ. Again, when the CPU going to process data, same clock will be used. CPU, this will intake one instruction, process it, output. In each clock pulse, this will change the data inside or the execution process. So හිතන්නකෝ machine එකක් කියලා, assume that this is a machine. So the belt, there's a belt, and in the belt these values are gonna transmit or transfer, and this will process that and output those. In each clock pulse, this will intake one, process it, output that. So previously I explained fetch, decode, and execute, and store. These are the main steps which performed by the CPU. Each of these steps will be performed in each clock pulse. If we consider one clock pulse, this will take one instruction, another one will be decoded, another one will be executed, another one will be stored. Again, this will send here, this will send here, this will send here. A, B, C. D will be stored. Another new one will be here. So like that, as a cycle, this will start and perform each of these steps within this clock pulse. That is why the clock pulse is referred to the speed of the computer. The computer speed එක කියලා අපි කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය CPU speed එක කියලා කියන්නේ මේ clock pulse එක. Clock pulse එකේ time interval. See? Megahertz, gigahertz. So that is the measuring unit of this clock pulse or the time. Earlier computers normally the time interval between two clock pulse were 3 megahertz. Now the rate of clock pulse is become 5 gigahertz. That means 5 billion pulses per second. එක තප්පරයකට pulses 5 billion. Assume the speed, right? The computer works in such a speed. Children, did you understand about the clock? Do you have any questions regarding this?
So if we want a faster computer, we should look for the clock speed.
Yes, clock speed actually this is mentioned in the CPU. This is referred as CPU speed. Clock speed is referred as the CPU speed. Normally, when you're going to purchase a CPU or a computer, you can see the speed of the CPU is mentioned there, like 5 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, 3.5. For example, let me show you. Okay, children, you can see, I think, see, when you're going to purchase a central processing unit CPU, the speed is mentioned here, right? You can see 3.8 gigahertz. That's the speed of the CPU. Actually, that is the clock speed, right? So you must consider the speed of the CPU with this one, this value. Right. So speed of processing. Actually, we explain this. So for example, if the average instruction takes 2 billion of a second, 2 nanoseconds, then CPU can execute 5 million instructions per second. If it is 2 gigahertz, then it can perform 5 million instructions per second. Right. Okay. Children, now there is a law which is called Moore's law. So this Moose is again a scientist. The Moose explain, or he says that the processing power of electronic devices is going to double every 18 months. Every 1.5 years, the processing power is going to double. Yeah, my data analyze kala kiyano. Processing power එක double වෙනවලු හැම අවුරුද්දකමාරකට. So now we are working in 5 gigahertz speed. Now that will be double in another 1.5 years, right? So like that. But there will be end of this in some case. But however, that is how it performs. Right, children. So this is the computer motherboard. Actually, this is the main hardware circuit board in the computer. All the other hardware components will be connected to this one, and data will be communicated within devices using this motherboard. Here there are a few things that you must understand, or you should be able to identify. So those are one is this here. This is CPU socket. This is where we're gonna connect CPU into the motherboard, central processing unit. After that, these ones, the yellow color ones, these are memory slots. This is where we are going to connect the main memory. Main memory means the RAM. These are RAM slots. Here we can connect the RAM. Right. Here you can see SATA ports. So these are the ones where we can connect the hard disk. Now the technology is called as SATA. So the SATA cable will be connected to this one. You can study further if you just search in the internet SATA cable, and you can see, right? After that, these are called as here. Right. Again, these are called as IDE connectors. Here, this is also used to connect hard disk. The IDE connectors are the earliest technology. Nowadays, the newest technology is SATA and SSD. So these motherboards, they don't have these SSD connections. I'll explain that later. So now we can use these SATA ports or these IDE ports to connect hard disk. So you can now search in the internet how to connect the hard disk to the motherboard. Then there are thousands of videos. How to connect RAM to the motherboard, there are many videos. So like that you can study further, right? I'm not going to show those videos here. Then children, you can see this south bridge and north bridge. North bridge is closer to the CPU. So these are the ones which coordinate data communication inside the motherboard. So these ones are also chips, microchips. This is what we call chipset. This coordinate the data communication between this RAM, hard disk, CPU, and again input device like that. This will be coordinated. The process of motherboard will be coordinated using this north bridge and south bridge. Actually, the south bridge works with the input, output, and other components. North bridge work with more communication, data communication between RAM and CPU. Right. So here you can see the power port. So you have to connect power using a power supply to the computer. And these are called PCI slots to connect additional hardware circuit boards. Like if you are going to connect additional extra VGA, graphic card, additional sound card, network card. So those circuits can be connected using these PCI slots. Right. So these are called as external ports to connect keyboard, mouse, printers, those external devices. And again, children, this is important. This is called CMOS battery. So the CMOS battery supply power to the motherboard. Actually, which is called we use here you can see. No, there's a chip called ROM, read-only memory here. I think this is it. Something here, right? Because I can't see the letters. So this battery will supply power to these microchips to keep basic instructions. When you just power on the computer, it will not execute the operating system or any other command initially. Only the commands which are stored in this ROM will be executed when you just press the power button of the computer. That is because when the computer is going to function, the data must be processed using this CPU. Computer ඔන්නලා වැඩ කරන්න අපි වැඩ කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ it must process data using CPU. But to communicate with CPU, data must be there in the RAM. So initially, RAM is a temporary memory, and we call that a volatile memory. That means when there is no power supply, there will be no data in the RAM. It must need a power supply to keep data. So then when we just switch off the computer or shut down the computer, all the data in RAM will be erased. So when next day, when we're going to power on the computer again, there will be no data in the RAM. So what the motherboard must do from this hard disk and from other devices, the basic instructions of the operating system must be loaded into the RAM. So that process again need instructions and processing. Instructions on process. So that part is done by this north bridge, south bridge, and using these instructions in the ROM. To do those things, it must require power to keep these instructions and date and time, those things. So that power will be supplied from this CMOS battery to keep basic instructions and memory in the motherboard. Even we shut down the computer, the time, normal time will be saved or continued in the computer, even it is power down. That is done by this CMOS battery, supplying power to the motherboard when we are not using the computer, when we switch off the computer. Right. Okay. So those are the main important components of the motherboard. So by just looking at the motherboard, you must be able to identify CPU slot, RAM slot, SATA connectors, IDE connectors, power supply, then PCI slots, north bridge, south bridge, those things, and CMOS battery. Right. So all these important components, important slots must be able to identify at a glance, right? You can just search in the internet. Just go to the browser and search Just open different motherboards and see, right? In this one, you can see CPU slot, RAM slots. This is ROM. Sorry, South bridge, North bridge. This is CMOS battery, PCI slots. If you just open another one, see in this one also CPU socket, RAM sockets, CMOS battery. So like that, you should be able to identify just looking at and motherboard, right? Then so this is IDE cable. One end is connected to the hard disk, the other end is to the motherboard. And again, you can see this is SATA and IDE right here. This is IDE connection, this is SATA connection. The cable is different and the technology transmission speed also higher in SATA. See, this is the difference. So like that, you can search now in the internet, right? All right, children. So these are the external ports. Here you can see. So these ones are not in use now. This is the VGA port, which we can connect the monitor, and USB ports to connect printers, keyboards, mouse, those things. And this is LAN port, network port, this one, to connect cable network connections and sound component, sound ports. So this is the appearance of the motherboard external ports. This is also differ from motherboard to motherboard. හැම එකම එකම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. motherboard වෙනස් වෙනවා. Right? Okay, now everyone, in the motherboard, there are another important thing called buses. You can see address bus, data bus, and control bus. So this also used to communicate from one device to other device inside the computer. For example, it is CPU. If you just consider communication between CPU and RAM, in this RAM, normally it is also divided into small piece of locations, and each location has an address. Address is just a number. If we name them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that, 12. So like that, each location has an address. Okay. So from CPU to the RAM, there are 3 main connections. Three main connections. These are called as buses. So one is called as data bus. Other one is called as address bus. Next one is control bus. Right. So children, what these buses do is, assume that CPU is going to read a data from the memory. So let's say the data is stored here. So now the location of data is, the address of the data is 10, right? It's in actual situation, it's a large number. For this example, you're going to take the address is 10. So here there will be a data. Assume that data is ABC. This is in digital format. Make the digital format again. And the address is 10. Now the CPU is going to fetch this data. Now what happens in the data bus, this will send the data. And in the control bus, sorry, the initial signal from the CPU. Oh. Right. Now the data has to be read out from the RAM. So initial signal from the CPU is to, in the control bus, this will send read. It's an instruction. It's a control. Read 10. 10 is the location. So the data here will be read out, and that will send through this data bus. Right. Next time, if the CPU is going to write something, if the CPU is going to save something in the RAM, then data will be sent through the data bus. Let's say location is 7. That is sent in address bus. Control is now write. Then that data will come here, and the 7th location data will be saved. So like that, these the data, addresses, locations, and control signal will be sent or communicate separately in the motherboard. So these communication lines are called as buses. Communication line is bus here. So in the CPU, you can see all the RAM, ROM, input output devices, other means hard disk, and everything is connected through 3 buses, 3 communication channels: address bus, data bus, and control bus. You can see the locations of data or instructions will be sent through the address bus. Data bus carries all the data, and control bus that communicate control signals like read, write. Got it? So these ones you can see in the motherboard, right? If you just take, just look at the back side of motherboard. See, these are the buses. Address buses, data buses, and control buses, which are printed in the motherboard. Right, children. Now we can discuss about input devices. So, so this is about the CPU, right? And the motherboard. Do you have any questions regarding those? CPU and motherboard. Right, children. If not, we can continue. So keyboard, you already know. Normally in general use keyboards, there are 104 keys and LED indicators. Function keys, again, bridge pad, so some components of the keyboard, control keys, LED indicators, arrow keys, numeric pad, right? So like that, there are some special keys in the keyboard. However, this keyboard layout is called as QWERTY keyboard. So that is taken from these first letters of the keyboard. So this is the official computer keyboard standard, QWERTY keyboard. So normally as the connecting interface of the keyboard, these things are available, these ports are available, but nowadays we are using only USB ports. Earlier we had PS2 port and mini USB also there to connect keyboards, and XT port, these other connectors also can be used with keyboards. Actually, these are old ones. Only mini USB and normal USB ports are used to connect keyboards to the computer. And these keyboards use ASCII code, right? ASCII. ASCII code to convert these letters into binary format. So only the computer can understand binary information, binary signals. So all these keyboards are developed using which can convert the letters into digital signal by using ASCII code, right? ASCII code is just a allocation of numbers for each letter. A is 65, B is 66, like that. That's a assignment of a number for each letter. These numbers can be converted into binary format, right? So like that, the relevant binary signal will be sent to the computer when we just press a letter. Then mouse, you already know these things, right? I'm just gonna quickly go through those. You can move the mouse cursor using the mouse. You can move the mouse cursor, point, open or execute programs, select, drag and drop, right? Scroll, hover. Then touchpad also there as a pointing device. In laptops, we use this touchpad. Then scanners. You can see different type of scanners are there, like card scanners, drum scanners, handheld scanners. You can see in the images, this is a card scanner. Very small one. You can just keep it in palm. And you can scan business cards. So this will automatically identify the data in the business card and save them in your mobile phone or computer. Drum scanners, very high-end scanners, large-scale scanners. Handheld scanners, you can see them in supermarkets. Pen scanner. This is a very smart device. Like this, you can very easily scan some data in printed documents. And sheet fed scanner. So if there are heavy load of documents to scan, then you can use sheet fed scanners. You can just input these documents into scanner. Just a click of a button, it will scan all the documents. So like that, different type of scanners are available now. Then you can see light pen. You can use this light pen with light sensitive screens only. Okay. It's also input device. This is used in CAD drawings. CAD means computer aided designing, like house plans, cartoons, graphic. In those things, these light pens are used. Digital camera. You can take photos, videos, and can input them into the computer. web camera, you can just connect the camera into the computer and then you can use that for video conferencing. Right? Then touchscreen. Touchscreen also is considered as an input device, right? Because using touchscreen, what we can actually use that to input. Right? Touch screen. If it is a screen, it's an output device. But when it comes to touch screen, it's a input device. But basically, it can perform both input and output. So there are several types of touch screens. One is capacitive touch screen. In our mobile phones, we have this capacitive touch screens. So actually, what happens there? When we just touch the screen, a current will be passed through our body and earth. So then there will be a voltage drop there in the location. So using a grid, the voltage drop can be identified, and that is how our mobile phone will understand where we touch in the phone. It's a voltage drop. These capacitive touch screens are very sensitive. And again, you have to use it softly. So these are soft use devices. You can't use them in heavy dust areas, right? Because if the dust is there in the screen, this will not work properly. So those are capacitive touch screens. And these resistive touch screens, you can see, you have to press the screen somewhere. There are two conductors here. They will touch together, and then it will generate a voltage. The technologies are different. Here you can see it's a voltage drop. Voltage drop back. Here, it will generate a voltage. So these are used in hard use devices like printers, industry machines. In some car audios also, the earlier ones, those ones have these resistive touch screens. You have to press the screen somewhere. So that touch press signal again. Resistive touch screens. And these acoustic wave surface, this is also a very sensitive one. So this technology is more advanced and very sensitive. Again, you can't use them in outside, in dust areas, and again, you can't use that for hard use because this is very sensitive. So those are the technologies which are used with in touch screens, right? Then magnetic card readers, I think you have seen these in supermarkets, in ATMs also, this one is there, right? So all these are input devices, right? After that, these inputs will come to the computer memory. So initially in the diagram also you understood that. Secondary memory, primary memory, CPU, input, and output, right? So second one is memory. Right. So if we consider computer memory, there are three types. One is cache, primary memory, and secondary memory. So children, cache memory is a special, very high-speed memory. The purpose of cache memory is to enhance the communication between primary memory and CPU. You can see the cache memory here. Here, right? So what this one do, this will keep instructions, the frequently used instructions in the CPU. Actually, children, what happens when the computer is going to communicate with data between these devices, it also may take time. So in the motherboard, you can see if CPU is located here, RAM is located somewhat far from the CPU. The cache memory is closer than RAM in the computer. So to communicate data bit from RAM to CPU, it may take very small time. Now all the instructions are stored here initially, and they will be sent to the CPU from the RAM. Again, this transmission also take a time. However, assume that the instruction A is a frequently used one. Every time that will be necessary to perform by the CPU. So then the CPU will store this instruction here in the cache. So cache has a very small memory capacity. It can't store large amount of data because children, the reason is the memory is very costly. Developing a memory, speed memory. When we're going to increase the speed of a memory, read and write speed, the cost also increased, right? So that is why the cache is a high speed memory, but the capacity is very low to control the cost of the computer. However, the cache will keep the instruction A because that is a frequent use instruction. So when this A is necessary, when letter A is necessary, then that will not letter A, actually instruction A is necessary, that will be taken from here. Again, the instruction will be taken from here, and when A is necessary, that will from here. Again, there is another instruction which is required frequently. Then A will be removed from the cache. The other one is will be stored, and that will be fed to the CPU. So now we can understand, to enhance the communication speed between CPU and RAM, this cache is used. It will keep the frequent use instructions and transmit them to the CPU in a less time. So that will enhance the speed. That is the purpose of the cache memory. Actually, this is done. This is the cache memory, and those things are included in the computer to balance the cost and speed of the computer. We can even the RAM is going to be developed using this type, or up to the speed. The cost of the computer will be very high. To manage that, these cache memories, registries, and those things are used in the computer, right? The memory hierarchy is used. All right, children. So again, cache also divided into three levels. That is again to manage the cost and the speed. Level 1 cache, level 2 cache, and level 3 cache, like that. You can see that here. In between main memory, these three level of cache memories are located. Actually, level 1 cache is inside the CPU. It is the faster one, but the capacity is very less. Level 2, the speed is less than level 1 cache, but capacity is high. Level 3 cache, speed is less than cache 2, level 2 cache, but the capacity is somewhat higher than level 2 cache. Again, main memory. Main memory is, again, the speed is low compared to the level 3 cache, but the capacity is higher than that. So these level of memory are maintained to balance the cost and the speed of the computer, to manage that. Got it? So again, don't misunderstand the word cache. So when you're going to use the browser also, I think you may be aware of this. In the browser also, there's a cache. So in some cases, you have to clear the cache. Otherwise, some updates of the website will not be appeared, right? So those are two different ones. The purpose is somewhat similar, but no, actually purpose also different, right? So here the cache is, it's a hardware device, it's a memory. So this is used to keep frequently used data, and the purpose is to increase or make efficient the communication between main memory and the CPU. The browser cache is something different. It will keep recently used websites, web data. That is browser cache, right? Again, that is also used recently used ones. This is somewhat different. Right? How does it work? That is explained in the note. Then children, primary memory. In primary memory, there are two categories. One is random access memory and the read-only memory. So DRAM, dynamic RAM, SRAM, static RAM, like that. There is a hierarchy in these RAM developments with the technologies. Programmable ROM, erasable programmable ROM, like that. So what you must aware is just there are two hardware components. One is random access memory, and the other one is read-only memory, which belong to the primary memory category. And random access memory is the main memory of the computer, and it's a faster memory with the available capacity of 8 GB, 4 GB, like that. Actually, this is the very important component of the computer, right? Without a RAM, the computer can't process, because that is the main memory actually. So that keeps all the instruction and data before processing. I explained that earlier. So 25 years ago, it was 32 MB, 8 MB, like that. Very small amount of RAM was used. Actually, very small amount of RAM was required, right? But nowadays, we need 8 GB, 4 GB memory, because the instructions, graphic, and those things are developed. And the task that going to be performed by these computers and software also developed. Then we need additional memory to keep those instructions. For example, if we take Microsoft Word, now Word, there are a lot of improvements, right? In the basic Word programs, there were bold, italic, underline, font change, and only those ones. So the instruction related to that software were very small. But if we consider Word 19 or something, Word 2019 or something, those are very advanced. Then the instructions in the software even a huge bulk. So to perform or to run the software, all these instruction has to be stored in the RAM initially. So then capacity of the RAM must be increased with that, right? So we need additional memory there than the earlier computers, because softwares and everything is going to develop, being advanced. When they're going to advance, the bulk of instructions it carries will be again high. The program ලියන්න පාවිච්චි කරන weight එක වැඩි වෙනවා. So similarly, the capacity of the software also going to increase. Again, for example, earlier days, if we check just a game, that was about 500 MB, 600 MB, like that. Nowadays, when it consider a game, it's 64 GB, 50 GB, right? So that much advanced. So 4 GB RAM, if you use only browsing, web, working with Office packages, like that. You are heavy multitasker, gamer, then you may need 8 GB, like that. So it's a high speed computer, a server or something. So then you may need 16 plus gigabyte of RAM. Then read-only memory, you can see it's a chip. Again, children, RAM, this is called as a volatile memory. Somewhere I have mentioned that. Volatile. The meaning of volatile means this will keep data temporary. Again, the meaning of volatile is the device must need a active power supply to keep the data. If we just disconnect the power supply, the data in the RAM will be erased. So RAM is a volatile memory. It's keep data temporarily. Only it has the active power supply. Okay. The other one, ROM. So ROM is a read-only memory. So the instructions will be stored into the ROM in the manufacturing process of the computer motherboard. And this contain the basic instructions to run the computer. And ROM is a non-volatile memory. It is non-volatile, you can see. Non-volatile means this doesn't require a power supply to keep the data. It's a very small memory which keep basic instructions. So when you just power on the computer, the basic instructions will be given from the ROM to power on the computer and load the desktop. Until the computer gets loaded with the desktop, we can't use that, right? We're going to control the computer with the desktop, using the desktop. So up to loading desktop into our computer, the instruction will be handled by the ROM. It is just by switching on a computer, it's not just like switching on a TV. When you just switch on a TV, it will show us the data, right? But here, it has to load all the instructions to RAM, and from there it has to execute these ones. Again, the basic, the most common basic program is the desktop. So it will run the desktop and allow the user to control the computer. Up to that process, up to that state, ROM will handle the computer. Not actually ROM, the instruction in the ROM will handle the computer, right? Then children, secondary memory. Again, do you have any questions regarding cache, ROM, RAM? Do you have any? Is it clear to everyone? Could you please reply?
So that time and date is wrong in the computer is when the CMOS batteries.
Yes, of course, yes. The charge of the CMOS battery is dropped. Right, everyone. If you don't have questions, you can proceed. Secondary memory. Secondary memories are also non-volatile because those memories doesn't need an active power supply to keep the data. If it's a pen drive, it doesn't need a power supply, right? Like that. Depending on the secondary memory devices, there are two categories. One is fixed devices, the other one is removable devices. So fixed devices are hard disk, CD drive, not the CD drive, right? Removable devices, CD, DVD, Blu-ray discs, pen drives. So those are removable devices. Actually, hard disk, you can see, it has a magnetic plate. Again, data is going to be stored in a magnetic structure. And using this head, the data will be read out. So this magnetic disk is going to rotate in a very high speed. And this head will move from here to here, outer edge to the inner edge. Then data will read out. Due to this technology, the rotation and what we call electromagnetic formation of data, the read and write speed of the hard disk will be slower by compared to the other memory, right? But the capacity of the hard disk will be higher. Okay. So this is the inside of the hard disk, and this is the outside. The outer figure of the hard disk. So the hard disk, the capacity is now measured with terabytes and gigabytes, 512 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, like that. Then you must aware about solid state drive devices. So solid state device is again used as hard disk. You can see 256 gigabyte hard disk is like this. It's just a circuit card. The technology which is used in pen drives is used here, but somewhat advanced than that. But to develop this kind of a memory, the cost is very high. So the data will be stored in electronic format, voltage format, as logical signals, digital signals. To develop this kind of this kind of a device, the cost is very high, as I explained earlier. So then in the common newest computers now, they are using 2 hard disks. One hard disk with less capacity in SSD, and another one in normal magnetic hard disk. So these magnetic hard disk, yes.
So is it true that SSDs can only be rewritten a certain number of times?
No, I'm not aware of that. Shall we check? I'll check and let you know, right? But I also not aware about that. That can't be, because it's just like a pen drive.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So thank you for asking, and I'll check that, right?
Okay, sir.
Right, children. So SSD hard disk can read and write data in very high speed. So then when you install such a hard disk into your computer, that will speed up your computer. Then you can install all softwares and everything into that hard disk. Then the communication between the RAM, CPU, and hard disk will be speed up if you use a SSD hard disk. Right. Then optical devices, CD, DVD, Blu-ray disc. You can see the surface of these ones. So here the data will be stored as pits and bumps. So these are pits and bumps. So the size of these pits and bumps will be vary with the technology. And you can see this is a CD. So if we consider square inch of a surface, CD surface, see, this is how the pits and bumps are located. And here you can see the size of the pits and bumps are smaller than CD. So it can store more capacity, more data than a CD. This is a Blu-ray disc. You can see again the size of pits and bumps are more smaller. Then again, the data, the amount of data that can be written into this Blu-ray disc is around 25 gigabytes. Very large amount of data. Again, these laser beams will be used to read this data, and you can see laser beams. Here, a Blu-ray laser Blu-ray will be used to read the data. So you can see Blu-ray is used because it's what we call right, not the frequency, something like this. In the Blu-ray, if you consider just a laser like this, and if it is a Blu-ray, you can IR make it.
Then
Like this. So however, it can then read these small pits and bumps using Blu-ray. So using normal CD drive, you can't read a Blu-ray disc. You need a special CD Blu-ray reader. Right, CD, DVD, Blu-ray. Again, some recordable optical devices are there, rewritable, and then USB memory stick. That is also a secondary storage device. Children, this is not an input device, right? In some cases, some people refer this as an input device. No, this is a storage device. Actually, children, this is a data traveler, not a data storage device. It's a storage device, yes, as a category, but normally it's considered as a data traveler. So most people use this as a storage device, And ultimately what they're going to do, they're going to lose this one. These pen drives will be affected with virus attacks. Then your data will lose, right? The data will not available. So please, this is not a storage device. This is just a traveler. So don't use this as a storage device. The vulnerability is high in losing data here. Memory cards, I think you all know these ones, right? These are SD cards, secure digital cards. These are microchips, micro cards. Right, children? So these are the storage devices, right? Different type of storage devices are there. Magnetic storage devices, then CD, DVD, optical devices, right? Solid state devices like pen drives, memory cards, SSD hard disk, those things. After that, as the last part of the note, we're going to discuss about output devices. So monitors, there are two type of monitors. Cathode ray tube CRT monitors. These are early ones. Then now these devices are not in use. CRT monitors, and now we are using flat panel display. In CRT monitor, the technology was there is a electronic gun, electro gun, and that will inject an electron to the phosphor screen. So then that will generate a light. That is how this CRT monitor works. And there are a lot of disadvantages there. Like it is large in size, it generates some heavy, harmful rays, it consumes more power, and again it generates more heat, right? So those type of disadvantages were there. And now we are using flat panel displays. Actually, there are three flat panel displays. One is LCD. Earlier we used LCD devices, and now we are using LED devices, flat panel. So in LED, the color and images are more clear, and it consumes less power than LCD, and it may not generate harmful rays, right? So like that, again, very high quality outputs. Like that, more advantages are there with LED displays. After that, children, projectors are there, right? Those are also output devices. Holographic projectors, they can project 3D in a 3D view, right? Holographic projectors. Then printers, right? There are again several types of printers. One is called dot metric printer. You can see the image of the printer here. I think you also have some experience of these dot metric printers. If you are going to pay a bill, or a water bill, or a electricity bill, or a mobile, or communication bill, right? So in those places, they have these dot metric printers because the cost per print is very less. So these printers are used to print invoices normally. And again, you can see the output of this one, dot metric. So it will print the fonts or the characters as dots. Again, this generates a heavy noise. Slow in speed. Printing is slow. Again, very limited fonts can be used. This is not suitable for graphic printing, right? But these are important because where we need to have a printout with a less cost and the quality is not a requirement, then these are the ideal ones. Just these printers are very cheap. So normally in most of the situations where people have to print invoices, right? Like shops, bill payments, and those things. In those places, these dot metric printers are used. Then children, we have inkjet printers to take color printouts. So these are used in normal office use, daily use in home. Inkjet printers. The quality is also high and the printing speed also high, but the cost also somewhat high. cost per printout is high, right? Then children, laser printers are there. So again, these are very expensive and the cost per printout is also very high, but the quality is again very high. So if we need to print a graphic, photos, those things, right? Cards, these laser printers are used. Right? The technology behind this printer is the laser technology. Very fast printing and very smooth printing. It will not generate any sound. Right. Plotters. So these plotters are used to print digital banners. Right? Very large scale printing. In the printing shops, they are using these plotters. You can see videos of those, right? How they work if you're interested. Thermal printer, again, these are very quick print. This will print very quickly and it will use heat to print. And again, these are used in ATM machines, right? ATM receipts, those are print using these thermal printers. Again, nowadays, the shops, they also use, shop owners, they use these thermal printers to print their receipts. This will print very quickly and again in a low cost. Thermal printers. Right, children, then the last one is sound devices. Speakers, headphones, those are sound devices. So during the session, we're gonna just have a brief understanding about computer hardware, children. So we basically discuss 5 main components. The computer will consist of a CPU, central processing unit, and main memory, which is referred as RAM, random access memory. The meaning of RAM is random access memory. CPU can access any place, any location randomly in this one. There are 2 types of access, sequential access and random access. Sequential access means you have to start from the beginning always. If you want to find this data, you have to start from here and come here. If you want to find the next data, you have to start from the beginning and comes here. That is sequential access. Random means just access this one, again the next one like that. After that, hard disk. So hard disk, normally in hard disk, this is this used sequential access because it has a, if it is a magnetic hard disk, it has a magnetic disk and data can be accessed in a sequential way. So this is a slower device. Then we have input devices and output devices. So initially all the data generated with input devices will be sent to RAM. And if we just open a program, that will stored here. When you install that, then that data also will be loaded to RAM. So for example, if I just open Microsoft Word, right? See, Word, I'm just going to press enter button. Loading, see, loading window. So that loading window comes until the data loads the RAM from the hard disk because it is initially stored in the RAM. So for loading, if it take much time to load, that means the RAM is busy or your hard disk is slow, right? Again, there can be a virus or something which occupy RAM. Then also loading will be slow. Okay, right. So children, this is the initial process. If I just open Microsoft Word, here also I'm using Notepad, right? So Notepad also initially stored in hard disk. When I just open it, it will load into the RAM. Those are instructions, and I'm going to feed the data. If I just type something in the Notepad, that's the data. And this instruction and data will be sent to the CPU. In CPU, there are 3 components. One is control unit. The other one is arithmetic and logic unit. Then registries. That's the memory. So the data which are sent to the CPU will be catched by this control unit. That is what we call fetch. Then that will convert to a digital signal, a signal which can understand by arithmetic logic, because data and instruction both are there. So that has to be converted as a readable signal from the ALU. Okay. Then that data will be executed. And after that, that is again will be sent to the RAM, the process data. Then the data is to be saved. Then they will be sent to the hard disk, or they will be sent to the output devices from the main memory. Right. So that is how the initial communication or data transfer between these devices happens. So we discuss about CPU, the clock speed and everything. So all of these functions, tasks will be performed within this clock speed, due to the, within clock pulse, right? So then the clock pulse, the duration between clock pulse decides the speed of the CPU of the computer, because each of these functions will happen in each clock pulse. In one clock pulse, the data will be sent. The other clock pulse, it will send to CPU. In the other clock pulse, it will execute like that. Right. And again, we discuss about RAM, main memory. This is a volatile memory. That means this needs an active power supply to keep the data. And ROM is there somewhere, right? That is also primary memory. And after that, hard disk. If we replace this with the SSD device, then the data communication between these two, RAM and main memory, will be speed up. So then also the performance of the computer will be increased. So these are storage devices, and these are stored, actually embedded to the motherboard, connected to the motherboard, right? And some removable devices as well, like CD, DVD, pen drives, those things. Output devices, monitors, printers, speakers, projectors, those are output devices, right? With the purpose, we can choose the output device. And input devices, microphones also, input devices. So those are the basic hardware components of the computer and how they communicate each other to process data. Okay, right, children. I just made a summary of the session. Now, do you have any question regarding things we discussed? Anything you couldn't understand? I think you must have, you may have a basic understanding about computer hardware and how they work inside the computer now. Again, if you need anything to be clarified, you can ask now.
So these registers and that L1 cache is the same?
No. This is something like this. When the CPU going to execute an instruction, there are some registers here. Right. So in registers, there is a program counter, memory address register, MR, memory address register, MR, memory buffer is there, and like that there are several registers, right? So what happens here? Controller and ALU is going to work together to execute data, to process data. Then this program counter keeps the the instruction which is going to be executed now, location of that. Again, memory address register, that will store the next instruction location. Then memory buffer, which is going to be decoded here, the location of that one. Like that, these registers are used to keep the necessary information about the instructions and data. They are locations actually, right? Again, there's a memory buffer, so that will take those, that will keep those what we call the temporary data, right? There is another register like that. So there are multiple registers. We call this registry array. So each register has a special purpose: to keep the next instruction, to keep the instruction to be processed, then to keep the instruction which is in the CPU inside the CPU, arithmetic logic unit, which is now currently processing, right? So like that, these are different transport. L1 cache is again a memory that is used to keep some small instructions which are to be sent to the arithmetic and logic unit. Very frequently used ones. Got it? So these are two different things, right?
Okay.
In some cases, in some other boards, there is L1 cache in some CPUs. I mean, in some computers actually, L1 cache is located outside the CPU. Those situations also there. Right, children, do you have any questions? All right, children, do you have any questions further? හරි හැමෝටම පැහැදිලිද දරුවනේ? Right then, if you don't have more questions, we can stop now. Clear. Right, children, so we can wind up the session now. So next day also we can discuss about computer networking and internet. So further you don't have any questions now. Shall I stop the session? Okay, so thank you for participating and in the early morning as well. So goodbye everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.